Hello, everyone. Welcome back. College Football Payoff time. Week 6, is it for us?
Episode 6.
Episode 6, Week 8
Week 8.
in college football.
Can't believe we've made it this far.
I know, and it feels like Week 1 because the Big Ten is finally back.
Yes.
We have Big Ten games on the card. I will be betting every single Big Ten game this weekend, regardless if it's on the official card or not. I am very excited, but the one thing that I want to talk about last week, there's actually a few, but the main one for me was Memphis, how fun that game was to watch. It looked like Memphis was going to lose the entire game. Dylan Gabriel for UCF was actually just playing out of his mind. I didn't think that was going to happen, and it came down to the last quarter, the last few possessions, and it was nail-biting, but pulled it out. And it made me a happy camper on Saturday.
Yes, yeah. Memphis killed it. I was really surprised that they weren't able to shut down Dylan Gabriel, but they were able to contain him by just enough, and that just enough was that 1 point that they needed.
Yeah, the 1 point. It was a fun game. I do want to talk about Notre Dame being an absolute trash can of a team. They won 12-7 against a 1-4 Louisville team. How they are ranked number 4, which now they're going to be ranked number 3 because Georgia lost.
Yes, this is the absolute most overrated number 3 team in the history of college football. I think this is I think the AP coaches poll. This is absolutely diabolical that Notre Dame is number 3 this week.
It sucks. I mean, they're so overrated with everything they do. That game was just terrible to watch. It was slow and everyone says, "Oh, that's a great game."
No, not at all.
I hated that. And I will never bet Notre Dame. I've said it hundreds of times, and I still will not bet Notre Dame no matter what the game is.
Yeah. How do you score 12 points against Louisville's defense?
12 points against a 1-4 team.
It's pathetic. It's embarrassing.
And
but
you think that that's going to actually compute against you playing in the College Football Playoff against Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, these big schools? It's not going to fly. Just how it hasn't worked for them in the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Man, I was thinking today, I kind of hope they do stay undefeated at least until they play Clemson, because that'll keep the line on that game a lot smaller, so I can just bet my life on Clemson.
Yeah, I'm already looking forward to the Clemson game.
I really need Notre Dame I need to make my money back on that team through Clemson this year, so I need them to stay undefeated, even though they are the spitting image of a trash can.
Just absolute horrible football. A few other things that happened. North Carolina, Jesus, man. Going into that game, you're playing Florida State. High hopes for North Carolina. They're coming in 5th ranked, and they shit the bed. They lost. Oh, man, that was a total kick in the...
Is Florida State back?
No, they're not back. I don't know. Watching the crowd reaction when they won that game, seemed like there was more fans than there should have been in that state. But it's okay. I'm glad fans are able to watch the games now.
It's Florida.
Yep, that's Florida for you. North Carolina, though, that was just... I mean, there was a lot of upsets over the weekend. UNC and then a couple SEC schools with Auburn and Tennessee both losing.
Thank God I did give out South Carolina last week on the pod.
That was good.
Thank you, Auburn, for that.
There we go. Yeah, he's coming back, everybody.
Yeah, what did you do last week?
Oh, let's recap. So last week, I was 5-3 overall. So far in the season, I'm 21-16. I'm up close to 9.5 units. I was winners on Clemson, -27 against Georgia Tech. Navy, +1 against Eastern Carolina. Memphis, +3.5 against UCF. And then the 2 moneyline moneymakers I gave out last week. Navy at +115 and Memphis at +150. Hit them both. Moneyline moneymaker is 5-1. We've won our last 4, and we're up 9 units on that. So
nice.
I
nice.
think
the moneyline moneymaker has saved me a lot.
I think we are starting to roll with that. The one thing I do want to say with the Navy game, that line did flip back and forth a lot, and I got lucky. I got it before they switched it on Saturday. They switched it to Navy, back to being a favorite. So if you didn't get it at the right time, you still won, but I got it early enough that I caught Navy as an underdog with the money line. So that was a good week for me. The losers, Tennessee -6 against Kentucky. Temple minus 10 against South Florida. And then, of course, North Carolina, 13.5-point favorites, losing straight up to Florida State. So 5-3, 21-16 overall, still in the positive, looking good.
Awesome. Yeah, last week I gave out 6 picks, went 3-3. Still negative on the year, but I think we got a good sign that tides are turning. 3-3 last week again. Had a loss with SMU -7 against Tulane. That was rough. I mean, we'll get to them later in the pod, but they're really just not the same team without Roberson at wide receiver. They're a top threat. And then BYU -5.5 got the victory there. Had me worried for a little bit as they were down at halftime, but they really opened it up in the second half, and they had scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. South Carolina, I think they're probably top 4 or 5 team in the SEC now. UAB won or covered. Notre Dame, an embarrassment, trash can, trash dump, whatever you want to call it.
Absolute horrible.
And then Ole Miss just doesn't. They play great offense. They just don't know how to play defense. I don't know if they don't understand what's going on or they don't have the ball, but it's just pretty ridiculous to see the absolute pathetic performances that defense has put on for 3 games this season.
Yep. All right. So we ready to get into it then?
Yeah, let's go.
I got 6 games to cover. I believe you have 6 as well, and we have a few in there that we're going to be fighting over, right?
Yes.
All right, let's get into it. I'm going to start it off because I am so excited that the Big Ten is back. My team is back. Nebraska against Ohio State. Ohio State 26-point favorites. Over-under set at 67.5. You know I have to go with Ohio State here. The Big Ten's finally back. And what better way to start off the Big Ten season than with the 2 schools that were basically at the reins for getting their season going, Nebraska and Ohio State. And all week, you read all the stories on ESPN, Nebraska and Ohio State, the ADs, the coaches, everyone's in agreement with each other saying, kudos to the other side. I think it was Nebraska's head coach said he's going to be an Ohio State fan except for this first week. After this week, he's an Ohio State fan all the way through the season because of how they work together to get the season going.
And rightfully so, too. I mean, these 2 teams were the reason that the Big Ten came back. If you follow me on Twitter, you can see that pretty much every week since the Big Ten was canceled, I was tweeting at Kevin Warren that he is a disgrace, he's an idiot, which he is. He thought he was going to be the hero to cancel the college football season, and he ended up having to back out. He lost whatever glory he thought he was going to have. And, I mean, it's his first year as Big Ten commissioner. He doesn't realize who else relies on the Big Ten. It's your local sports bars. It's your tailgaters. It's, all these other people that move the economy. He's not only, hurting the programs, he's hurting the communities around him. So screw you, Kevin Warren. Let's play some ball, Ohio State.
Big Ten's back. All right, so jumping into this game. Last year, Nebraska, in this game that they played against Ohio State, they ran the ball on the Buckeyes, and they put up some good numbers on the ground. They were 184 yards on the ground against Ohio State, which was actually the second most behind the 200 spot that Wisconsin put up in the Big Ten championship on them. Buckeyes won 48-7 in that game. Ohio State was just a complete team last year. They were scary. But Nebraska did have one of the best running games in the Big Ten last year. They were averaging over 200 a game. This year, they have Dedrick Mills leading the rushing attack behind a solid Big Ten offensive line. All right, Adrian Martinez is back at quarterback. So they have the offensive firepower there to put up the points, but they have to go up against a top 3 defense from a year ago in Ohio State. Ohio State, 3rd best scoring defense in the country last year. They gave up only 13.7 points per game. They were number 1 when it came to yards given up a game. They give up 260 yards each game on defense. Now, every year Ohio State loses key players, all right, but they bring them in with recruiting, with transfers. They lost a lot of players. They lost Chase Young, J.K. Dobbins, Jeff Okuda, K.J. Hill, Austin Mack, Malik Harrison, Damon Arnett, Jordan Phillips, all those guys gone, all right, either to the draft leaving early or graduating as a senior. But they continue to bring in the best one of the best recruiting classes in college. So you never know what you're going to get with that first game, but you know that there's going to be some stars on the field. And Ohio State also has Heisman hopeful in them with Justin Fields, who he's going to have to put up bigger than normal numbers if he wants to make his case against Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence has already played a few weeks this year. So, Fields is going to be behind the eight ball a little bit, but I feel like he's the kind of player who he's going to go out and he's still going to make his case on how he plays. Running back, you lose J.K. Dobbins. We still have Master Teague coming in. He's going to be splitting time with an Oklahoma transfer, Trey Sermon, and they're behind probably the best offensive line in the country. I'm not saying this because I'm an Ohio State fan, but if you look at the offensive line, someone tweeted it out the other day, each starter is around 315 pounds and over 6'3".
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's a good offensive line.
That's who I went blocking for my
That sounds like NFL style, Buckeyes, they're going to need this game to be a showcase to prove that they belong in the college football playoff right away. And, they're anxious, ready to get out and prove that they belong after the way that last season ended. A little bit of a ref show against Clemson, but I'm biased. Ohio State 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 as home favorites. Nebraska 1-5 in the last 6 meetings with the Buckeyes against the spread. I'm taking the Ohio State Buckeyes to cover 26 points in this one. So Ohio State minus 26 is the play.
Nice. Yeah, I like Ohio State for this game with anything under 28 points, just because Nebraska was majorly disappointing last year. So why am I going to trust their quarterback Martinez to show up for this game?
Right.
So,
yep, I agree.
Awesome. I got a Friday night game for you.
Hey-o.
We're going to go down to South Florida. They're hosting Tulsa. The Tulsa Hurricanes, Golden Hurricanes, actually. Tulsa's laying 10.5 points. I'm going to take them as the road dog. They were off last week. Their game against Cincinnati was postponed. But Tulsa in their first 2 games have showed a lot of promise this year. They played Oklahoma State game 1, lost 16-7, but they really competed against that team, proving that their defense was legit. And then they ended up beating UCF 2 weeks ago, 34-26. We spoke earlier about how dominant Dylan Gabriel is, as he's actually showed up on a couple Heisman boards, although he won't win it. They were able to hold them to 26 points. So I am a big fan of this defense. If we look to the other side of the ball, South Florida is on a 4-game losing streak. Their only win this year is against the Citadel. So, I mean, I don't know what that tries to tell you. They're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 Friday night games. And another stat for you, they played Cincy this year. Cincy threw them 3 interceptions. USF still lost by 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, they're not scoring too many points off of turnovers. They're not capitalizing on the opportunities that they're creating for themselves. They played East Carolina, who gave them a tough time on the ground. East Carolina ran for over 200 yards on the ground against them. And this is a perfect matchup for the backfield of Tulsa. They have 2 weapons in the back, so I expect them to control the game a lot on offense and then contain that USF quarterback on defense. USF currently is the last in the AAC. We're going to keep him there. Give me Tulsa minus 10.5.
All right, yeah. I was looking at it too. That's a good pick. I'd take Tulsa, USF.
Defense wins.
Exactly.
Defense covers.
That's what football, yeah. Defense wins. All right, well, I'm going to stick with the Big Ten. Like I said, I'm playing every single Big Ten game this week. Not all of them on the card, but these are the 2 that I'm most confident with and I feel are going to be locks. So let's jump into the next one. Maryland at Northwestern. Northwestern's 11-point favorites. The over-under set at 55. These 2 teams probably wish that last season would have been the season affected by COVID. And it was rough for both Maryland and Northwestern last year. Northwestern used to be that school that was kind of that sneaky...
The sneaky upset team.
Yeah, and last year, not so much. They're both looking to rebound big this year. Maryland does have some headline news coming into this one as Tua's brother, Tulua, is competing for the starting quarterback job. He came over from Alabama. He's competing against Lance Legendre. Head coach Mike Loxley hasn't made the official public decision on who the starter is, but reports say, he's told his team. So they know who's starting. He just doesn't want to give it away for whatever purpose, I guess, competitive advantage, whatever you want to call it. And, Loxley actually came over from Alabama. He was Alabama's offensive coordinator. So he knows to his brother. So you would have to think that he's going to be the starter off speculation.
And that guy's maybe a little bit familiar with the offense he's already going to run.
Right. So whoever the quarterback is, they're going to need to do whatever they can to improve on last year's 11th best scoring offense in the conference. There's 13 teams in the Big Ten, and they were 11th.
They were sorry.
It was not good. They averaged a low 25.3 points per game. You look at that number compared to Northwestern, it looks like a well-oiled machine. Northwestern was dead last in the conference last year in scoring. They put up 16.3 points a game. So get ready for this one. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be just terrible football to watch. Hopefully they have some upside, but I don't see it. But one thing there is to talk about, we don't want to talk about the offenses because there's not much to talk about. I want to talk about Northwestern's defense. Last year, middle of the pack in the Big Ten, they averaged 23.6 points per game and 335 yards per game. That was actually good enough to have them ranked 25th nationally in total defense. They returned 7 starters from last season as well. And that's going to give them the advantage in this game. Northwestern's defense will be the advantage point in the game. Both offenses suck. Maryland's defense is worse than Northwestern's. Take that with whatever you want to say. It's going to be a boring game, but it is going to be a low-scoring game. The only matchup worth watching, like I said, Northwestern defense, Maryland offense against whoever the quarterback is. Don't care who wins. I think Northwestern wins, but the play in this is going to be the under 55. It's going to be a low-scoring game. So take the under 55 in Maryland Northwestern.
Is that game at Northwestern or Maryland?
No, it's at Northwestern.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love the under then.
And I think it might be a later game. I'll look that up, but good. I think it might be a night game too.
All right, well, I'm going to take it on down to Memphis, who is hosting the Temple Owls this week. Memphis is laying 13.5 points at home. And I've been watching a lot of college football coverage this week, and I've been seeing a lot of experts, or so-called experts, automatically taking Temple this week. They like to say things like, oh, this is a huge letdown spot for Memphis. Memphis has the worst defense in the country. But let's do a little bit of looking below the surface level here. Temple has lost by 2 this year and won by 2 this year. So they've been in a lot of the games that they've played, or both games that they've played. But they lost by 2 to Navy, who I personally think is a wreck right now, or at least this year. And then they won by 2 to USF last week. USF is a terrible team. We've already been over that earlier in the episode. But they won on a really exciting game last week, and now they have to go on the road. This is a huge letdown spot for Temple, and probably bigger for Temple than it is Memphis. Temple is not the team that they were last year. They lost a lot of talent to the NFL draft and to just graduation. Memphis, on the other hand, they are ranked dead last in yards per game that they give up on their defense. They've given up about 590 yards a game this year, but if you just look at who they've played, no shit. They've played Central Florida, who has one of the best offenses in the country, SMU, who has one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and before Roberson got hurt, one of the best wide receivers, in Arkansas State. They all score points. All these teams score points. So I am not really worried about Memphis giving up a lot of points to Temple, because this is clearly a step down in competition for them. And then their offense is doing pretty well. They're 8th in the nation in passing yards per game. They have a 2-headed monster in the backfield with Watson and Clark, who respectively gain 5.4 and 5.5 yards per carry. This game will be an offensive battle, but at the end of the day, I don't think Temple will be able to keep up. Give me Memphis minus 13.5.
Yeah, and I like Memphis. I picked them last week, obviously. I don't like to. I try to stay away from teams that I picked on the money line because sometimes I think they're playing for me, so that's a letdown spot. But
Right.
no, if I were to make a play in this, it's definitely on your side. It's Memphis. Temple is just.
And, I mean, when you boil it down, this is really off of both teams are off exciting games. This is a two team letdown game. I'm going to take the team that's home.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. Okay, so my next game is going to be Iowa State, Oklahoma State. This game is at Oklahoma State. They are favored 3.5 points. The over/under set at 52. Iowa State is hot, and they're looking for their first ever 4-0 conference start in school history. So after the shocking loss in their first game to Louisiana, Iowa State's gone on to beat some pretty quality teams. TCU, Oklahoma at the time, Texas Tech, they all beat them. And Brock Purdy is playing pretty well. He's playing well at quarterback. And Breece Hall is the second-ranked running back in the nation. He averages 132.8 per game. He actually has 3 games of at least 100 yards on the ground. So, again, you have offense there. Mix that with confidence. It's pretty dangerous. On the other side, you have an Oklahoma State team who haven't played a real team since West Virginia on September 26th. Cowboys, I mean, they have a good running back over there as well, Chuba Hubbard.
He's one of the best in the country.
One of the best in the country, but Breece Hall is ranked second in the stats. So Chuba hasn't had the best of seasons, and that's tough because I really like him as a running back. But he's still a dynamic runner. He has fumbled a few times this year, but he's always going to have that big play threat where he can bust something, ignite the offense, whatever it may take. The issue on offense is going to be with the quarterbacks for Oklahoma State. Gundy has said that he may actually alternate quarterbacks during the game. I don't know why, and that's actually, you never see a winning team have multiple quarterbacks cycling in and out the entire game. You need to pick one and stick with it. I don't think that's going to work well, and I think Iowa State having a pretty strong rushing defense, the focus could fall on what the passing game can accomplish for Oklahoma State. The defenses in this game are pretty good. Oklahoma State is 7th in defense. They gave up 274 yards per game this year. They're 13th when it comes to passing defense at 181 yards, and they're 10th when it comes to rushing defense at 93.7 yards a game. Meanwhile, the Iowa State rushing defense is ranked 13th in the nation, giving up 100 yards per game. So defense is going to be a vocal point in this one. It's going to come down to that quarterback play, though, and I will give the edge to Brock Purdy and Iowa State. It's going to be a close one, but in the end, Iowa State either keeps it close enough or they might even squeak out a little 1 to 2 point victory. Iowa State 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. Underdog is 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings. I'm going with Iowa State plus 3.5 in this one.
All right. I'm fighting you on this one.
Ooh, all right.
I am Rocky. You said plus 3.5?
I got plus 3.5.
All right, I'll go Oklahoma State minus 3.5.
Okay.
I like to pick, honestly, before I go into any reasons of why I'm taking Oklahoma State, if this game was at Iowa State Stadium, I'd be taking Iowa State. I know that's a really tough place to play. They're an upset machine when it comes to that stadium, but the game is in Stillwater, and here's why I think Oklahoma State's going to walk away with this. They do have the best D in the Big 12. They are only allowing 9 points per game to be scored. Now, we look back, they have played Tulsa, who we think is a good team, but they have Kansas on the board there, and then they exposed West Virginia's offense. So I'm pretty sold on this Oklahoma State defense for now. They're allowing less than 100 or 300 yards of offense a game at 274.3 and holding running backs to under 100 yards rushing. This is going to be vital if they want to stop Breece Hall, who already has 531 yards and 8 touchdowns through 4 games this year. But Iowa State left a really, really bad taste in my mouth after that Louisiana game. I thought they were going to be great this year. I thought this was going to be a dark horse Brock Purdy Heisman year. I'm just not there yet. This is really could possibly be a preview of the Big 12 championship this year. I think this was probably the best game we're going to get out of the Big 12 this year. But I've got to go back to, I know how you said Spencer Sanders was, they were thinking about bringing him back this week. That clearly is their starting guy. He only got to throw 2 passes against Tulsa before he got taken out of the game. I think, and from what I've been reading in Stillwater, these people really want this guy back, not Illingworth. But it's a nice little hedge. If Sanders comes back rusty, we have Illingworth, who's had the play time and experience already this year. Hubbard, 339 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Wallace at wide receiver, 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both of those players are averaging over 100 yards production a game. Hopefully they can excel. If they don't, this might spell trouble. But just going down the board and seeing the statistics, team statistics from yards passing, yards rushing, yards allowed, Oklahoma State edges Iowa State in all these categories. They're the home team. I got to rock with Oklahoma State minus 3.5.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. I mean, the defenses in this game they're the best
two
defense.
in the conference.
Yeah, and it's a conference not known for defense, but I think that's why it's going to be a close game. And in those close games, I think it comes down to quarterback play. So
And
if you have a set
Brock
quarterback,
Purdy's definitely the safer bet.
but
there.
we'll see.
So
Hey,
we'll
we
see.
got a little fight going on.
Never,
I like it.
never would I think that I would be watching the Big 12 and Texas and Oklahoma are probably not going to make it to the conference championship this
I
year.
enjoy it.
So, yeah, no, I do too. I
like it.
I like Oklahoma, but Texas, if you've listened to the podcast this year, you know how much I just loathe Tom Herman. He's such a fraud. I actually saw a stat this week that if they would have kept Mac Brown at his worst season at Texas this whole time, they would have more wins than they have over the last 5 years.
So we got a fight there. I'm going next with Kansas at Kansas State. Kansas State's 19.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 48.5. The Jayhawks are a bad football team, and they actually got worse this week. Earlier in the week, they lost their star running back, their best player, Puka Williams. He's decided to opt out for the rest of the season to be with his mother, who is battling health issues. Again, that's more power to him. I mean, I'm never gonna criticize a player for opting out. It's great that he wants to be with his mother. So good for him. There goes. But I mean, there's any sort of offense that Kansas may have had, and they also have a defense that's just horrible. So this is a bad football team. They are giving up 42.5 points per game. That solidifies them as the worst in college football. They have been blown out in their last 3 games. Closest margin was last week against West Virginia. They lost 38-17. That's a 21-point loss, and their best player was on the field. So now they lose that player. You have a 19.5-point spread against a team that is just firing on all cylinders off of a big wins, big upsets. It's not looking good for Kansas. The Wildcats have come up with, like I said, those big wins against Oklahoma, TCU. They also mixed in a nice little victory over Texas Tech, and they won their last matchup against TCU with their backup quarterback. So they're feeling good as a team. Their confidence is rolling sky high. They possess the number 1 ranked red zone offense in the nation. And they also have the 40th ranked scoring offense in the country. They average close to 30.5 points per game. And they give up around 26 a game, but Kansas's defense, they give up 26 points per game, but Kansas's offense only scores 15 a game. In 9 of their last 12 games, Kansas State has covered the spread. That includes each of their last 5 conference games. Kansas, a solid 10-game losing streak in the series. They have not covered in the last 5 games. They are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 as underdogs, and their last 4 following a straight-up loss. Not much to say about this one other than true freshman Will Howard at quarterback and running back Deuce Vaughn will lead Kansas State to a very easy victory and cover. Give me Kansas State minus 19.5.
I'll probably throw it on my personal card. I won't add it to my pod card, but Kansas just has no life in them anymore. I know it's a rivalry game, but what are they really playing for?
And it really doesn't feel like a rivalry because you talk about rivalry games are back and forth, back and forth. This hasn't been. The last 10 games, it's been Kansas State. And you have two coaches in there who haven't really had a competitive game against each other in a rivalry setting. They'll say it's the biggest game in the state, but in all intents and purposes, they're not looking at this as a rivalry, as more of Kansas needs to look out for getting a 50 burger put up on them.
All right, I'm going to take it down to Minnesota. They're taking on Michigan this week, and Minnesota is laying 3.5 points. Or no, they're getting 3.5 points at home, so they're a home underdog right now. Is Harbaugh a good coach?
No.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know why this game, the line is like this. This line stinks, but I dove into Michigan's offensive and defensive troubles from last year, and it's not really going to get much better. Their secondary is replacing 3 starters. So they lost 1 to NFL opt-out and then 2 to the draft last year. And Minnesota has a great junior quarterback coming back. His name is Tanner Morgan. Last year as a sophomore, he threw for 3,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. I mean, he's going to continue that this year. He's got his best wide receiver back, Bateman, who caught 1,200 yards last year and 11 touchdowns. Their starting running back is up. He has over 1,700 yards through 2 seasons at that school. And everybody on Minnesota's O-line is either 6'5", and if they're not 6'5", they're over 300. So they have an NFL caliber size on that O-line, just like they did last year. I put a lot of money on Minnesota last year and made a lot of money, especially when they beat Penn State. You remember that game?
Yep.
I just don't see Michigan as still this elite program that Harbaugh was supposed to turn them into. They had 4 starters opt out this year. So 2 just opted out purely off of they didn't want to play this year, and then 2 are getting ready for the draft. One of the players that could have played this year that opt out is Dylan McCaffrey. He was the expected starter this year to be at Michigan. He's Christian McCaffrey's little brother. He's currently seeking a transfer. So on the road, Michigan is going to have to put in a redshirt sophomore quarterback who has only played 47 snaps in his career. Against a home underdog, I'm obviously going to take Minnesota here. With the P.J. Fleck effect, it's his 3rd year there. I like Minnesota.
Yeah, I mentioned before I'm playing every single game. Minnesota is my play for this game. Minnesota's that Northwestern team from a few years ago. They're the sneaky Big Ten team, but I think they're very good. The receiver Bateman is just unreal. And Michigan, every year it's the same thing with Michigan. They get ranked. Once they get ranked, they just stop playing, and Harbaugh is just not a good coach. Michigan will lose that game. I don't understand why they're ranked above Minnesota, but they're going to find out this week that it's Minnesota who's the better team. So, good pick. All right. And now I'm going to go with my trusted Alabama Crimson Tide.
Why not?
So we got Alabama at Tennessee. Bama is a 21-point favorite. Over-under set at 66. In the 4 games this year for Alabama, they have scored 38, 52, 61, and 41. In those games, respectfully, they've given up 19, 24, 48, and 24. In all of those 4 games, the over is hit. Tennessee, they've given up 31, 35, 44, and 34 in their 4 games. So they're 2-2 on the over, but they give up a lot of points each game, and I think that is signaling a very high-scoring affair in this one. Nick Saban does not want to show up to a game that he thinks is a rivalry game and coast into the 4th quarter. He's mentioned that Alabama-Tennessee is a rivalry, and they're trying to hype it up and all that. So if Saban wants to make it feel like a rivalry, he's going to want to put a whooping on somebody.
Yeah, and that Jeremy Pruitt, head coach of the Vols, is a former D coordinator for Nick Saban. He never loses to his former assistants.
Never. And that's a big point in Saban's game is he doesn't want those guys to leave him and then beat him. He's going to make sure that they remember who Nick Saban is and who taught them what they know. So Saban's going to want to put up points, continue to show the country why his team should actually be ranked number 1 above Clemson. They're ranked 2 now. Mac Jones coming off a big week against then-ranked number 3 Georgia. He went 24 of 32 for 417 and 4 touchdowns. He'll be looking to add to that Heisman resume this week. He's at a 78.3% completion rate, and he has close to 380 yards per game. The Volunteers give up their fair share of passing yards too, offensive yards in general, but of the 362 yards they've given up, 213 have come through the air. The other 148 obviously on the ground. That's going to be Najee Harris's ears just playing that sweet sound, hearing that kind of numbers they give up on the ground.
Man, when he scored 5 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, I thought, wow, this is going to be another Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram type, running back from Alabama that wins the Heisman. So we'll see if he can. I think he can build on that.
Yeah, I mean, because last week he had 152 on the ground. So Bama's offense is going to have no problem this week. Their defense is just not as solid as their offense, and this is where I think the over comes into play. Bama's going to score their points. They're going to score as many as they need. I think the defense is going to be an issue when it comes to these 20-point spreads. Defense for the Crimson Tide has been pretty soft this year. They've allowed 28.8 points per game and have given up 458 yards of offense a game. That's 309 through the air, 149 on the ground. Now the quarterback for Tennessee, Guarantano, he's looking for some comeback games. He had a disaster of a performance last week. He threw 2 consecutive pick sixes in about 2 minutes. This was against Kentucky. He was met with boo birds.
Yeah, and he really didn't. The box score looks different against Georgia from 2 weeks ago, but he really didn't do too well against Georgia.
No, and Jeremy Pruitt, he still thinks that his offense is actually playing better, and they are more efficient each week.
I mean, it's pretty easy to play better when you didn't do anything last year.
That's exactly what I had here. So maybe this week they'll be able to find the end zone against a Bama defense that they are weak. So I think on the road the points are too much for Bama, especially with how their defense is playing. But I am going to go with the over 66 in this game.
Yeah, I mean, 66 is a good over. I might, I won't give it out on the pod. On my personal card, I'll probably take Alabama just based off of the fact that I don't like Guarantano at all. I think he's a bad quarterback, but they're not going to bench him. Alabama's going to have their 2s in their 3s in at the end of the game. Guarantano will be able to score eventually. You might have to sweat this a little bit, but I think you'll get it at the end.
I think Bama puts up 50+. I think they'll score a lot of points.
Mac Jones is good. He's confirmed good. I mean, he's statistically on the same level currently as Tua.
So they're going to get their points, but I think Tennessee, if you score 50, what do you need? 17 points there. Yeah. I think Tennessee finds the end zone a few times, maybe lucks into a third one or kicks. I think it's there, and I think it's gonna happen.
Nice. All right. I am going to take it up to SMU, who is hosting Cincy this week. Cincy is a road dog. They're given 2.5 points on the road, and I don't see how this line makes sense. SMU had a pathetic performance last week against Tulane, and that directly correlates with them losing their best threat in Roberson. He's going to be in the NFL draft this year. He has 4.3, 4.4 speed. He had he's still their leading receiver after missing last week and half of the game before against Memphis. He still has 474 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. They don't have him anymore. When they played Tulane last week, the defense looked pathetic against that just a ridiculously bad Tulane offense. They ended up winning in overtime, but it was more of a Tulane mistake rather than SMU winning it. Cincy, on the other hand, has an elite defense. I think probably the best defense in the AAC. They are equipped to stop teams like SMU. They're equipped to stop teams like Memphis, Arkansas State. They can stop these high-powered offenses, and that's what I'm really relying on this game. Even though they're on the road and Shane Buechele is one of the best performances in the country this year as a quarterback, they're really just not the same team. They do have a running back in Bentley who has ran for 506 yards and 8 touchdowns. So he's averaging over 100 yards a game. But Cincinnati only allows 300 total yards of offense a game. So I don't really know how much they're going to be able to rely on him. Ritter at quarterback he's 597 yards this year, 6 touchdowns and 4 picks. But 3 of those picks came in one game against South Florida, which they still won by 3 touchdowns. So I just think since he has a way better roster, they're on the road, they know that they can actually be a dark horse with how bad the Big 12 is this year. They do have a chance to get into that college football playoff if they can show dominance over teams like these. They need this a win against a 5-0 SMU team to make the case. Give me Cincy here.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to add this to my card as well. I'm going to put this on the official podcast card. Cincinnati plus 2.5. I think the line is coming from SMU being 5-0, and they just kind of
and at home.
Yeah, they see that and they automatically think that SMU is a better team. But Luke Fickell, he's just like a little lay back, kind of let everyone doubt him, and then he comes up and strikes.
Exactly.
And I like Cincinnati a lot, so I'm going to roll with them on this one with you.
I cannot be more clear that this SMU team is not the same SMU team without their wide receiver Roberson.
Right.
So let's go Cincy.
All right. So we're both taking it, Cincy plus 2.5. So now let's get to my last game. And you know what that means as well. It's going to be a money line moneymaker. Houston at Navy. Houston is a 13-point favorite. Over-under set at 55.5. Let's set the stage. Moneyline moneymaker is 5-1 on the season. Now, you can argue it's 4-1 because of the Navy pick last week. It was kind of if you get it at the right time, it's a money line.
And no, we are doing the research on before Wednesday for the Saturday games. You got it. You get the units.
There we go. So we'll say that they're 5-1. But to make this a true money line pick, I need to take them when they are complete underdogs.
A true underdog.
And that's this week against Houston. 13-point underdogs. Listen, what's the main goal? I got one question. What is the main goal for Navy every single season?
I don't know, win 5 games?
No. They want to beat Army, and they want to beat Air Force.
That is true.
So that Army game's the last game of the season's Army.
They already got embarrassed by Air Force.
That's exactly what I had. They already lost Air Force, so they need a new goal to work for. With them sitting at 3-0 in the AAC, I think they have the goal of winning the conference up on the bulletin board in that locker room. They have a shot, if they beat Houston, to win that conference, and I think that they do beat Houston. This game is going to be a battle of polar opposites. The air attack at Houston versus the triple option at Navy. Now, Navy's fullbacks, Jamal Carruthers and Nelson Smith, have both been playing very well. And they're going to be going up against a Houston Cougar defense that has issues at linebacker. They're going to be without starters Zamar Creven. And, yeah, Houston has played well against the run on paper, but that's because teams haven't had to run up against them to succeed. They have been throwing the ball all over Houston all year. They've given up 315 passing yards in 315 passing yards in 2 games. So people don't have to run against them. Navy's not going to be passing. We all know that with the triple option. But it's going to test the Houston defense. And the midshipmen will actually get a boost out of Tiger Goslin if he gets the call over injured Dalen Morris. He's a little bit more of a runner at quarterback. Discipline is also going to be a factor in this one. We know service academies are disciplined. Houston is not disciplined.
It's true.
They committed 10 penalties last week, and against Navy or Air Force or Army, you cannot have more penalties. They will make it hurt. And the last thing on this, Navy has played 5 games this year. Houston has played 2. So I think Navy is more polished. Navy they have some money line wins under their belt. I think they beat the Cougars just like they did last season. Give me Navy. I'm doing both here. All right, we're going to go Navy plus the points, so Navy plus 13, obviously. And the money line money maker for this week, Navy. Ooh, what is it at now? Let me check. All right, because I think you have a play on this as well, right? I'll check while you explain your play.
All right. Unfortunately, again, Dan and Big Country are going to clash on this one. I like Houston here. I like Houston laying the points. And I haven't really looked at any trends for this game, but I really don't like that that I'm going to go against the 5-1 moneyline moneymaker.
Smart.
I don't want to hate it. You've had a lot of success with it this year. I've tailed that, had a lot of success on my personal card, thanks to you. But Houston's offense is legit. I can't trust the Navy team this year. What has Navy done? They played BYU game 1. They gave up 55 points, only scored 3. They beat a really bad Tulane team where they scored and they pretty much only played one half of football, but they ended up winning. They got embarrassed by Air Force. They won a thriller against Temple, and then they lost to ECU. So they haven't really played any offense. If you outside of BYU, who scored 55 points, if you look at these offenses, they haven't played anybody who's real. Houston, what sticks out with them is the improvement they had from game 1 to game 2. So their quarterback, Clayton Tune, gave Tulane 2 touchdowns on 2 defensive touchdowns in their opening game. One was a scoop and score for 6. Another was a pick 6. And he threw 2 interceptions and fumbled once. So 3 turnovers in the Tulane game. Turned around, played against BYU last week, 0 turnovers. So we do see a clear progression in his play against even better competition. Last week he threw for 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, and was 21-31. They were actually beating a really, really solid BYU team, 20-14 at half. They did give up 22 points in the fourth quarter. I don't even think Navy has the capability to score 22 points in a quarter, let alone a game. They're only averaging 19 points a game this year. Houston's no stranger also to a run-heavy offense. As you know, they're part of the AAC, so they play teams like Memphis and teams that run a lot on the ground. I think that I know Navy has been going through a lot of quarterback problems. Are we playing Morris still? Are we going to the backup? Oh, shoot, our other backup transferred the day he didn't get the starting job. I don't want to go against a money line moneymaker, but I think Houston is just a step up in athletically and offensively. Give me the Wildcats minus 14 points here.
All right, and I think you said Navy lost last week to ECU.
Oh no, they beat
they
ECU.
won.
They won. They won by 4 because you got it.
Give them the credit.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm still gonna stick with my Navy midshipmen. Navy's plus 385 on the money line, so I'm gonna take the money line with them. And I don't want to do this to you, but we're gonna go to 6-1 because that's just how we do it. We make money over here.
Wins.
We make money. I think the rest of your card though looks pretty stacked. Do you want to go over it?
I actually have 2 bonus picks. Well, no. You know what? I'm not going to officially give them
let's
out,
hear them. Let's hear something. Give us one of them.
I want the listeners to just lean this way. You don't have to take it. I'm not officially going to take it on the pod. But there are some opportunities that I see this week, especially on Friday night. We have Tulsa playing South Florida. We said I really like Tulsa. But I'm also going to combine them in a teaser. So I usually save teaser bets for NFL Sunday, but I really see an opportunity on Friday night here to tease down in a 6-point teaser. Take Tulsa from 10.5 to minus 4.5 to beat USF, and take UAB from +1 to +7. Little fun fact for you: since UAB's program was canceled and reinstated, they have never lost at home. So I know they're playing a pretty strong Louisiana team here, but they are at home. So even though they've never lost, I even love the 7 points that they're going to get. Look for a UAB Tulsa teaser on Friday night. Also, I'm not going to give it out on my official card, but I do have another potential money line moneymaker this week.
Jesus, Bob.
I mean, I like to call my money line moneymakers the big country cash cows.
All right, let's hear it.
But we have a trash can traveling to Pittsburgh this weekend. And Notre Dame is laying 10.5 points on the road. I have seen Pitt on the money line from plus 320 to plus 350 at different books. You can shop it around. But Pitt always has a huge upset almost every year. You remember they ruined Miami's undefeated season 2 years ago. They ruined Clemson's undefeated season 3 years ago. They always pull out a win against an AP top 5. A lot of analysts were looking back, over to the Miami game last week, like, man, this is going to be Pitt's big upset this week. No, this week is going to be Pitt's big upset. If they have one this year, they're playing a trash team in Notre Dame. Sorry if you're a big Notre Dame fan and, you hear us trashing your team, but they are the most overrated number 3 team in the country. Look at Pitt money line on Saturday.
I like that.
Yeah.
They're at plus 315. I'm probably going to end up playing that. It's not official. It's not the official because I'm leaving that to you.
Pitt is very well equipped. Notre Dame put up 12 points on Louisville's defense, who is atrocious. Pitt has an All-American in Paris Ford at safety and a really good cornerback also with DeMar Hamlin. Their D-line stuffs the run, and that's what they're going to have to do against Notre Dame. Man, I'm not going to give it out, but keep your eye on Pitt this Saturday.
I like it a lot. All right. Well, there we go. Big Country, why don't you go ahead and review what you have?
Yeah, Big Country Week 8 picks. I got 6 of them for you. Official picks, I'm going to take Tulsa minus 10.5. I'm going to take Memphis minus 13.5. I'm going to take Oklahoma State minus 3.5. That's one of our fights. I'm going to take Houston minus 14. That's the other one of our fights. I'm going to take Minnesota plus 3.5. And I'm going to take Cincy plus 2.5 with Dan.
Yes, sir. All right. So here's my card, the official card with Big Ten coming back. Praise the Lord. We got Ohio State minus 26. Northwestern Maryland, that game's at 7:30. Under 55. I'm taking Iowa State plus 3.5 in a fight with you. Kansas State minus 19.5 against Kansas. We are also doing Navy plus 13 and the money line at plus 385. The spread is a fight with you as well. And then I also have added Cincinnati plus 2.5 to the card. So there it is.
All right, Week 8.
Hey, thanks everyone for listening. The past few weeks we've seen, views go up, and it's pretty awesome
really
to see
exciting.
everyone jumping into it.
Thank you for the support.
All the Twitter followers that we're gaining. Hopefully you guys are starting to figure out, what we offer and kind of listening on at least the Moneyline Moneymaker, because I'm pretty proud about that. That's my baby. But
yeah, you don't got to take our picks, but you should take our takes.
Yeah,
you should listen to our takes. I mean,
if you want to make your own, make your own. But
right, and make sure if you're enjoying this, share it with your friends, share it with other people who gamble. We're trying to grow, and we're trying to make you guys more money.
That's right. If you don't already, please subscribe to the YouTube video, the channel. Look out for our tweets coming from Big Country and me at the Accountant Bets, Big Country, and then our official Twitter page, CF Payoff Pod.
Yep.
All right. Follow us, share us, tell your friends. We're trying to make a lot of money for
getting
everyone
hot
out there. I mean, we are getting pretty hot. So, all right, man. Well, that's it for me. You got anything else?
Till next time.
All right, everybody. Good weekend and happy betting.